All right, guys, this is Kime Interviews. We are here with P.O.D. If you could just introduce your name and position in the band.
My name is Sonny Sandoval, and I'm the singer for the band P.O.D.
Awesome. So tell us about Aftershock. You excited to be here?
Yeah, man, this is it's a huge lineup, and from what I hear, it's big for the city of Sacramento right now. So I'm just stoked to be a part of it.
For sure. So let's talk about the band. Like, you guys have been around for a while, and also remaining a lot of your members for like a long amount of time. Usually, like, bands can't manage to do that. So what part of that do you think is something special? You know, like, how do you guys manage to do this for so long?
Yeah, man, we've been together 21 years. You know, we're family, we're brothers. We love making music together, and you know, we took some time off, but it really comes down to the heart and the passion that we have for music. But more than just playing and being in a band, it's just, you know, our music happens to have a message and it's uplifting, and when people respond to that, it's like it keeps us going. You know, there's times where you want to kind of, you know, hang it up, but you always get that one kid or somebody who's like, hey dude, your music means so much to me, it changed my life. And it's like that's what music's supposed to do.
So let's talk about that message. If you could write, like, you know, a Wikipedia about your band's message, if you could just, you know, in like a little sentence or two, like, what would you say it would be?
Man, dude, I'm a man of faith. You know what I mean? I believe in Jesus. I'm not a religious person, and in that, you know, comes love. It comes trust. It comes hope for a better tomorrow. And then I try to put that and practice that, and being a good husband and a good daddy and a good friend. And you know, our music is meant to be hopeful and uplifting, and encourage people.
So how has music changed since you've had, you know, children, like from the beginning to now?
Well, I mean that's my priority. You know what I mean? If I can, I tour 13 months out of the year if I can have, you know, all my family, you know, 24/7 with me. But you know, this is a hustle out here. You know, it's not the rock and roll story that you hear about back in the day. You know, it's like those days are over with this industry. You know, there's no billion-dollar dream at rock and roll. You know, I guess that's for the hip-hop artists these days and the pop stars. You know, but you know, as far as us, we're hustling. We've sold millions of records, and yet we're still hustling. And I think that's just the path that P.O.D. has always taken. You know, we've earned you know, everything that we have, and we're still hustling and struggling. But I guess that shows that it really does come down to the music, not you know, being famous or being a rock star or the money, because all that stuff to me doesn't really even exist in the big scheme. It's just like, it's, you know, we're playing these small little crazy clubs just because kids are still coming out and going bananas. You know, it's like, so as long as our bodies can hold up, we'll keep doing it.
So why do you think music is that way, like, as of recently, for rock stars?
I mean, I just honestly, bro, I just think there's no heart in it. I think there's no originality in rock and roll. Everybody's trying to be you know, like somebody from the past. And honestly, if I could say this even without, you know, if you have to bleep it out, I just don't think there's no balls in it anymore. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, I grew up in that punk and that hardcore scene. Whether you even agreed or not with the band, you still had respect for them, because you're like, dude, hey man, you sing it and say it with conviction and passion, and dude, I'm gonna, hey man, I'm listening. You know, nowadays it's like everybody wants to be famous and they don't want to work. They just want to be in rock and roll and be somebody. And again, with technology and stuff, it's like half these bands, 90% of these bands don't even have to play their own instruments, and they don't even have to write music together. They can all record in their basements, in their rooms, each part, and not even be a band. Or you have the same four guys in Hollywood writing everybody's music, and so it's just lost its oomph, you know. And more power to the bands that are out there. It's what it is. To me, I see a decline. There's no A&R, there's no label trying to find the next Led Zeppelin or the next Black Sabbath or AC/DC or U2. They're not out there. It's like, what can I get out of this band right now? How can I sell some records? Or, you know, how can I get their money, build them up, get their money, and then leave them by the wayside? And there's no band that has come out in the last, recent years that last to the end of time. It's all a trend.
Wow. So, what are some of the bands that you grew up on that you're kind of like, yeah, those bands have, those lyrics that you love and that passion?
Well, I mean, I like bands that I relate to, and it was always bands like, I grew up on, rock from AC/DC to I love like the Police, but when I started getting into hardcore and punk, there was bands like Suicidal and the Bad Brains. And once I started to see, I was more into like hip hop and reggae music when I was like a young teen, and then once I saw that guys of color can do what I thought was white music, it opened up a whole new world. You know what I mean? I thought punk and all that stuff was just like Sex Pistols from the UK and Mohawks, and and once you saw that these guys from the hood were singing and had this angst, and it was like, dude, I can relate. And then that opened up other bands that I can check out, and then the whole straight edge movement and all this stuff, and I was like, dude, there's a scene out there, and again, none of those guys were rock stars. None of those guys were considered successful as far as selling millions of records. They just did it because it was like that was their life, and I think sometimes that might even be our downfall. We're so committed and loyal to the core that it's like, we've had our success. It's good. If it happens, it happens. And, it's just, I guess it's just what it is.
So let's talk about Whosoever's. I know that your faith is obviously very much prevalent in your, in your lyrics and whatnot. So why Whosoever's rather than, the title typical Christian,
Well, the Bible says that whosoever should call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. One of the most famous verses in the Bible, John 3:16, says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life." And to me, it's simple. When nowadays in 2013, when you think of Christianity, you think of religion, you think of televangelists, you think of hypocrites that steal your money, you think of almost a racist church that doesn't accept anybody but their own. There's just so many things that go along with that title. And for me, Christianity is only mentioned once in the Bible, and it was after Jesus had gone crucified and gone up to heaven, and then the disciples were doing the things of Jesus, that the Greeks in Antioch said, "Hey man, aren't you guys like Christians or something?" And then it was like, okay, he means we're little Christ. And then it was a badge of honor where it was like, you know what? That's right, homie. Like we are. Yes, we are. But those men that called themselves Christians, or the world called them Christians, they didn't call themselves Christians. The world identified them as little Jesuses, and they called them Christians. Those men went on to die and be martyred for their faith, horrible deaths, except for one who would write the book of Revelation and tell us how the world's going to end. So for me, that word Christian has been thrown around so much. Everybody's Christian by nature. But by definition of the Bible, are we really Christians? Are we really Christ-like? And that's a fine line. So I get it, because we're sinful people. So for me, I don't even want to start there, because it seems like, well, I'm a Christian, you're not, and it seems like almost a class of people, whereas I'm just, where the Bible says whosoever, and it's like God saying, anyone who listens, anyone who'll sit at my feet and say, hey dude, recognize what my son did for you. And so I found more in common with street people, regular people, and then when I read my scripture, that's who Jesus was. He was he was a man of the roads. He was a man of the people, not this like, oh, even though he was, he made himself to be nothing so that he can be with the people. And so the people I associate with with aren't these high religious people. They're just awesome men and women of God that live in the real world, do real things, are excellent at their craft, but are still humble enough that we can get together and say, hey man, without Jesus we're nothing. And I'm not trying to sound religious, because I know how the world thinks. The moment you say I'm Christian, it's like, oh, you're one of them, huh? It's like, no, I know what you mean. I'm not one of them, but I am a believer in Jesus. I'll never back down from that. I'll take a bullet straight to my brain right now for the cause of Christ. And at the same time, I associate with people that say, dude, hey man, I need prayer, man. I want to go out and do this, and I want to snort this, and I want to go, I'm around real guys that are at least honest enough to say, hey dude, I know it's wrong, so can you walk with me, talk with me, pray with me, keep me accountable? And I say, yes. Can you do the same for me? You know what I mean? So it's more of a group of people that just being honest and vulnerable, and using the gifts and talents we have to go out and share a message of love that, you know, we believe is truth.
So, lastly, what would you say for upcoming bands? Just that not only are just upcoming bands, you know, that you have advice for, but also, you know, Christians that are trying to, you know, start a movement with, you know, rock music like yourself.
It's tough, man, because you know what, bro? This is an industry. You know, it is entertainment, and that's where I find my struggle in the balance, because people get on us for not being so blatantly Christian, or putting Jesus 20,000 times in each song. It's not Christian enough. But then there's also bands that do that, but yet I don't see it in their life. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. It's like that's an industry. Don't call it God. It's an industry, and there's rock stars in Christian music. It's an entertainment. It's except this is a Christian industry and a secular industry. You know, most of the bands that I associate with, that I know are born again believers, are more of the hardcore scene, that are like, dude, I'm all about it, and this is my faith, and I'm gonna scream about it, sing about it, and if that's your heart, man, then by all means, preach it till the wheels fall off. Go for it, you know. And then there's others that are just trying to make it and you know, and live out their faith and be excellent at playing the guitar and playing the band. Then by all means do it, but have fun doing it. But only you know what God has put in your heart, you know. Not everybody's called to be a teacher and a preacher, you know what I mean? If you're called to being a guitar player and be the best at it and be in a great rock and roll band, you know, then just be the best at it, be excellent at it, and give God glory for your life, for your talent, for everything that you do, and God will use you. But at the same time, you know, I see a lot of guys that sometimes just get caught up in the world, and it's like being a rock star becomes priority, and being a band comes priority than actually living out my faith. And dude, I'm guilty of that myself. I'm a victim of that myself. I think just sometimes being in this industry, in this road, you get so jaded, and it's just like, you know, you get caught up in things, and it's like, so that's why for me, it's like I had to take time off to just go home and say, man, I don't want to believe that I'm just a Christian because I said a prayer so long ago. It's like I just, you know, again, but all our experiences are huge. To be able, for four guys from the hood to be able to, you know, make it to the top in this rock and roll industry, and see everything that this world has to offer you, it's like, dude, that's when your faith comes into play. It's like, man, I got to make right decisions. You know, I got to make good choices. And how much do I really believe in what I'm saying I believe in? You know, and when all this stuff's coming at you. So, like I said, that's when you know, you got to decide what God's put in your heart to do, and yeah, give Him glory.
Awesome, great information, and thank you so much for having us. Yeah, so this is P.O.D, guys, and thanks for having us. Yeah,
Thanks, brother.
Check it out, Kaim Interviews. Take it easy.